Brian White is joining me this morning on a good Tesla day. We're actually Tuesday doing a Tuesday show. This is very weird. And the stock has been up nicely this morning, not quite as much as it was earlier, but it seems like it's doing okay. But what we wanted to do, actually, it was Larry Goldberg's idea yesterday that we need better retail questions for the next earnings call. And from that, we discussed whether or not, well, we need better questions all the time for people standing in line at events, or just putting better questions up on the X or whatever it might be. And so we decided that maybe as a group, so the group would be all the people that are on my channel, maybe some of the people that are on your channel, maybe people that I've never even had on my channel, but also everybody, all of you out there, you guys. You can put your questions down below also. And we're going to try to refine them, make them better and better, more clever and more clever in a way that we will finally actually get the results that we're hoping for. And so, Brian, you are the guinea pig.
I'm excited.
Yes, you get to go first. So I understand you have 10 questions. We'll discuss them, think about them. And by the way, you all can also answer these questions. You can give what you think is a right answer for any of these questions that we bring up each day. All right. So, Brian.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying, I was just told to come up with 10 questions. Now, some of these would be good for those rare opportunities you get to actually ask a question to Tesla and the whichever directors are on the call or at an event on stage when you are given the microphone. It's a very rare opportunity. Whenever I do a presentation, I get to the end and I say, okay, we're at the Q&A. There's only two rules. It must be short. It must be a sentence or two, and it must end with a question mark. Because if you don't do that, you'll get someone who will stand up and talk for 10 minutes without
Yes.
a question. They just soapbox. My friend, we are not here to hear your pontification on the universe. Ask a question. You're
Yes,
wasting
exactly.
everyone's time. There's 500 people in this room. If you take just a minute, you just wasted, days of people's lives. So let's not do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So my first question would be, why no Mexico? What's
Why
going
Mexico? Yeah.
what's going on there? I mean, we thought it was going to happen. I'm mildly concerned that because all of the details of the transaction are sealed. You
Yeah.
cannot go to the county clerk's office and pull up the details. They are under seal.
Hmm.
So we don't know the exact perimeter. We don't know how big the land is. We don't know if they actually purchased it or just purchased an irrevocable option for very little money because there's no commitment. And if there's no commitment, maybe they didn't do a full site survey. Maybe they don't understand the challenges of the topography. But that would only explain part of it. Why aren't we expanding in Berlin, in Shanghai? Why no Mexico? What's going on?
Yeah. Okay. So why no Mexico? So that'd be number one in your list. So you
Yes,
guys down below, if you think you have theories.
yes.
Uh,
And it would also address the compound annual growth rate of 50%.
right.
I've had people show up in my comments saying, told me there would be 50% growth and there isn't. Why? Well, because Shanghai's at capacity, Fremont's at capacity, and Texas and Berlin are still ramping. But the big answer is there's finite market for Model Y, and we need new models. So um, I didn't guarantee that there would be growth. I guaranteed there was a roadmap to growth, but that roadmap clearly included new additional factories, which we are not seeing.
Exactly. And, we could get back on that path, but Elon hasn't reiterated that path. His most
No.
most recent iterations that I know of are that we would have more than 1.8 this year. So
Mhm.
some growth. He didn't say how much, but some growth, and that we'll hit 2.7 next year. Those are the only two statements that I believe Elon has made about future growth. Do you know of any others?
No, no. And those are reasonable based on what we know about existing and upcoming factories.
Right, right. All right. Okay. Question number two.
Why no Model 3 in Berlin? If the factory is under capacity, you can build a Model 3 on a Model Y line with minimal adjustment. We've got a new 9% import tariff. Is that 9% plus the existing 10, 19%? 19% is a real hit to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the shipping cost and the shipping time. So, should we be building Model 3s in Berlin? Are we gonna build Model 3s in Berlin? And why no Model 3s in Berlin?
Yeah, okay. And so I think this has been a bone of contention for a long time as to whether Model 3s were originally going to be made in Berlin. I claim that Elon had said at some point before Berlin was built that it was going to be for both Model Y and Model 3. And then other people questioned that. It went back and forth a little bit. But yeah, that sounds like a very good question. Now, it may be that there's a 20% difference in the cost to make them in Shanghai versus Berlin, but that's a pretty substantial price difference or cost difference if that's true.
There would probably be a price difference. There would definitely be some price difference. But even if it is let's say it's a 10% cheaper to build them in Shanghai, how long does it take you to get back that investment at 10% a unit? What's the payoff? Because if it's 5 years, that's probably too slow. If it's a year, it's a no-brainer. But where are we at? We don't get to see those numbers. Only you do, behind the curtain, Tesla folk, executives.
Yeah.
So yeah, is that a possibility? I also was under the impression that Model 3 was possible from Berlin. I don't remember it being a guarantee, but I don't remember any guarantees.
Right.
So, and the two vehicles have a lot of parts commonality. Is it coming?
Yeah, maybe. All right. So, and then question number 3 would be,
What has been the semi holdup? What was the delay? It looks like it was ready to go at least a year, maybe 2 years ago. Was it a lack of cells? I know Elon had said that twice had said, we are not battery constrained.
right.
But what he actually said is we're not battery constrained for the production that we anticipate. If they said we're going to also make a semi and we're also going to make it in tremendous volume, we're going to make 100,000 semis. Well, that's 700,000 cars worth of batteries. So 800,000, nine, it's a lot of batteries.
Right.
So that I think would have created a constraint. But what has been the delay?
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of cells, again, I get a little confused because I can't keep up with all the stuff, but maybe you have an answer to this. It seemed to me that at some point it was stated that we didn't necessarily need 4680s for these semi trucks, that we could use uh, any of the configurations if necessary. So it's possible that other cells would have been in enough abundance, especially at this point in time when we have huge amounts of capacity for overall batteries, from CATL and others that are just completely not hitting their production numbers.
My understanding is uh, you can put any battery in a car. How much range do you want? So we're not going to put LFPs in a semi just yet. We still need the high nickel batteries. So that's 2170 and 4680. As I understand, and this isn't something that I've read in the news, this is something I put together on my own, is that semi has always been meant to use the 2170.
Hmm.
But that, and it currently uses the 2170 from Nevada right next door.
Okay.
The problem was they tried to ramp 4680 faster so that everything in Texas at least would be using 4680 batteries. We saw them produce Model Ys with 4680s for a limited time. And so if they had been able to ramp so that all cars coming out of Texas were using the 4680, then they would have had enough 2170s in Nevada to build the semi. We didn't see that. So is that the holdup?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Good question. All right. Next.
What are the obstacles to getting into the Indian market?
Hmm.
We know the market is easy to understand for their analysts. The manufacturing is easy to understand for Tesla's analysts. They can look at the business case and determine if it makes sense or not. A uh, a $20,000 car is very expensive in India, but there's 1 billion people there, and their middle class is just starting to grow the way we saw it grow in China 20 years ago.
Right.
But it is growing. And what are the obstacles? Is it that the government is still too friendly to domestic makers like Tata? Or is it something else? What, the if Tesla had moved into India a year ago and began the process of putting up a factory like Giga Shanghai to dominate the local market, I'm confident they would be in a position to do exactly that, to dominate the local market. In China, there are still over 100 EV makers, and Tesla remains in the top two,
Right.
which is shocking, which is
Shocking.
breathtaking. The amount of market share that a foreign company has in China is unprecedented.
Yeah, and you as you mentioned all of that, you start to think about, a year or so ago in some of these very conversations that you and I were having, we were speculating so much the opposite way. It's like, will it be India first or Mexico first or Spain or the UK or a second factory in China? Or maybe it'll even be Japan or maybe Australia. They've got, and so everybody was talking about where the next factory would be. And that was all the conversation. And now the conversation is, will there ever be another factory?
That I think that is the exactly right assessment. It was probably about a year ago where all of us were trying to feverishly determine, maybe more than a year now, but maybe
Yeah.
a year and a half, where's the next one going? Because there's a lot of great candidates and everybody wants a factory and everybody was courting Tesla. And now the questions have shifted.
They have
So
shifted. Question number, I think, are we up to five?
I think we are at 5.
Okay.
What's the progress on the LFP production in the US in-house for Tesla? We know Tesla purchased a bunch of equipment from CATL, that their techs came over to install the equipment, get it configured. We haven't heard where. I assume Nevada, but I don't know that for sure. Panasonic might be territorial with their real estate because they do have a stake in that site. But it doesn't matter where. They can build them somewhere else if they need to. Um, but what's going on? Where are we at with that? When can we expect to see LFP production domestically? There are cars that are made with batteries that are not eligible for the IRA credit because
Right.
the batteries and or minerals are sourced uh, outside of the trade area that would allow them to qualify. Are we getting those back? I heard from a Tesla employee on Sunday that there are new restrictions coming to the IRA January 1st because there's going to be the mineral requirement gets stricter every year. And
Mhm.
that's going to bump a lot of cars off that list. Uh, we can, we can, getting those LFPs made domestically will address that to a degree, certainly buy some time while the rest of the supply chain catches up. Where are we at? Where are we
Yeah.
at?
What is going on with those LFPs? And maybe again, it might be a matter of demand. Is there enough demand for those LFPs to actually finish and hire the folks and get the thing running? Maybe we're still looking at no place to put them
I would argue that there's absolutely demand because the
because of that.
compact,
Yeah,
the compact is probably going to need them.
yeah,
And not needs a strong word. You can
yeah.
put any battery in there, almost, but yeah, there's, there's a place for it. And if you could sell a $25,000 car that qualifies for the IRA credit,
Yeah.
oh, game over, baby.
Question number 6.
Uh, at one of the recent days, we heard that they've got a new motor that doesn't use rare earth magnets,
Yeah.
that is not as efficient, but sufficiently efficient to build a battery with uh, non-rare earth materials.
Mhm.
So the first question would be, yeah, how's that coming along? Are we on pace? Is that going to happen? Are we going to see that? Is that coming to the compact? I don't know if it would scale appropriately to go back into the higher performance vehicles, but it might. We don't know enough about it. I'd had a chance to talk with some engineers about it, and I said, is this even possible? And they said, yes, it is a not an engineering puzzle, it is a physics puzzle,
Mhm.
but physics puzzles often have solutions.
Right. And especially in an Elon Musk world. That
Right.
over and over and over. Yeah. And then maybe the second part of that question is, if we do get that, is it for the new compact? Is it for the unboxed? Is it, where are the applications for that particular product? And what do the savings look like? Is it substantially less than one that uses rare earth metals? Is it
Mm.
just minimally different? I mean, those would be, I think, additional add-on questions there.
And my question would also be, does the cost savings outweigh the inefficiency?
Yeah.
As in, are you just taking that cost savings and transferring it to me in the future?
Right.
But we'll know that. Well, I mean, let's find out first where we're at with the building the darn thing, and then we'll ask that question.
All right. Question number 6.
Seven.
Seven.
Uh, would that motor's physics scale up? Could we use that motor, that generator, in a wind turbine? Because if you could build a wind turbine without rare earth materials, you just open the floodgates. Now you could set up a wind turbine factory, um, 3, 4 of them on every continent, and cover the world in wind turbines in 10, 20 years instead of 100 years.
Hmm.
Would it scale?
Yeah. Now, Brian Wong is not a big fan of what do you call it?
Turbines,
Turbine
farms,
farms, because he says they actually change the weather. Did you know that?
everything changes the weather.
Well, that's just his think.
A butterfly flaps its wings in Tokyo, and it creates a tsunami.
That's right. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in just in case people are paying attention to all the pros and cons of the various methods of generating electricity.
Does changed mean bad, or does change mean different?
Yeah, change. But it's substantial. It's not even a little change, apparently. I'm no scientist, and I commonly just have to trust whatever Brian Wong says, because he is on a whole different level from me on this stuff.
Oh, we know.
Question number 8. See, I can add.
So this is kind of a bigger one. Is battling misinformation a priority? Because we see sometimes it feels like it is, and other times it definitely isn't. I'd spent
Are you talking about Tesla misinformation?
I'm talking about all of it. I spent
Oh,
months battling Tesla misinformation
right,
and media misinformation,
right.
and some of the conclusions it led me to, my viewers didn't care for. There's this common myth that the more money you spend advertising, the better headlines you get, and I found that to not be true. There's no correlation. The best headlines you'll find are for BYD, who spends very little money advertising in Western media. And I've gone into the reasons for that before. And the worst headlines are Tesla, but the second worst are GM, and they spend $1 billion a year. SpaceX enjoys very good coverage. It's all about the viewers, the readers, and what they're willing to click on. And if you write sensational clickbait trash about SpaceX, the people who follow space closely won't click it. You have to stay fact-based, and they like it. And I spent months doing that. And every day I would analyze dozens and dozens of headlines, chart it, graph it, all that. And the problem I had was that the wealth of misinformation on a variety of topics was so profound on X that I couldn't understand what I was doing anymore. Like, why am I even doing this? Why am I helping all these people who
Finger in the dike. Where's my finger? Finger in the
right,
dike. Yeah.
right. That's one fetish, but there's all this thought that I'm out there spending all day
Yeah.
combating misinformation, and then the very people that I'm trying to help are out producing and distributing additional misinformation. And if we're taking the high road, we got to take the high road. How important is battling misinformation.
Mhm.
So it's just it's a balancing act, and I'd be curious to know how it works.
Yeah. How about misdirection?
Uh,
How about
so
Miss America? I'm just
well,
not sure.
but misdirection is that's a great point, Randy, because at what point does misinformation,
Yeah.
get credible to the point of simple misdirect? Well, look over here instead.
Yeah.
That's still dishonest, but it's not quite on the same order as this will catch on fire. But
Okay.
it's just very frustrating.
All right. Good. Number 9.
Uh, can we get some expectations for 1010, please? Any hints? Now, see, if we're waiting until we get in front of these, this is an event where we may see some questions answered. I don't think 1010 will have a Q&A.
Oh.
Uh, I product releases generally don't.
Oh.
Quarterly earnings do, shareholder day does. Uh, but this question would be the dumbest one because they'd say, well, did you just get back from the bathroom? We just did a whole presentation on that. Were you not here? So I think, but it would be, I'd like to see some guidance on it. Are there going to be 100 tickets? Are there going to be 10,000 tickets?
Yeah.
Are we doing rides? And I think they're keeping it under wraps on purpose. But I would really like some hints. I'd really
Hmm.
like some hints. I'm going to be giving a presentation let me pull up the calendar here, on the 26th. Is that right? Wow, that's coming up so quick. Uh, at the Tesla owners or the Tesla Service Center no, it's a sales Tesla location in Tigard, Oregon.
Hmm.
It's being put on by the Tesla Owners Club of Oregon. If you come out and take a test drive, you get a ticket in the raffle. If
Hmm.
you come out and take a test drive because of me, you get a ticket in the raffle, and I get a ticket in the raffle. And Phil, the president of the Owners Club of Oregon, said, "What, Brian? What's your presentation topic?" And I said, "You know what? It's going to be what we will see on 1010." And I'll start by saying the employees are standing right there. You can try and read them as I give you ideas
Yeah.
and things that I may know are going to happen on 1010, and you can see if they can hold a poker face while I say them. And the best part is they can't refute anything.
No,
They have
no.
to just stand there and go, "Oh, this guy."
So you're a lie detector. You're a walking, talking lie detector.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible at that. And a lot of times they don't know. They are kept in the dark on purpose because humans are very bad at keeping secrets.
Very bad. Very bad. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, okay. So, yes, what's going to happen? Now, we'd all like to know that, and that would be something we obviously would need to circulate the question prior to
Yeah,
10, as you cleverly pointed out. Yes.
as I did. And then of
Okay.
course my 10th and most important question that I would
Most
ask
important. All right.
by far. If I, had a audience with Elon or anyone on the executive staff today, my question would be, can I get a ticket? Can I get a ticket? Can Brian end his drought? The I mean, I'm in some, what is it, the Chicago White Sox, who have such a fantastic losing record this season.
Yeah.
I feel like a White Sox today.
Oh,
I
right.
need I needs me some ticket.
Some
Uh,
ticket, yes, yes. And then,
mhm.
and I would, even though this is in my hometown, I would defer to Brian because of his drought. Give him your +1 first, and then if you got another +1 some other place, send that one to me. Now, maybe both of us will win the drawing. Who knows?
Yeah, then we would have plus
Possible.
ones
Right.
to dole out appropriately.
All
Yeah.
right. So that's number 10 and the most important one. So yeah, you didn't count down, you counted up to the most important one. And so those are good, Brian. Those are excellent questions.
Uh-huh. I
And now,
know. Thank you. But in the comments, I do want to hear from you guys what you think are the answers to these questions and the
right.
more important questions that we didn't get to.
And how would you change the question? So this is one of the things
Mhm.
that Larry and I talked about is like, okay, we ask these questions, especially the ones that are on the earnings call. They just get thrown up on the earnings call. Then people vote on them. but a lot of times they're not even asked in a way that is going to get answered in any significant way. So if you think that Brian didn't ask these questions in the smartest, well, obviously they were the smartest that he could do.
That I was capable of, surely.
But is there another way to ask them that is more likely to be answered? Or is there a way to, or do they need an automatic follow-up? Sometimes you have a question that begs for an automatic follow-up. So those are the kind of things you could put in the comments below. We'd love to see.
I would love to see them too.
And then if you haven't had enough of Brian and me for one day, yesterday, Brian and I had a phenomenal show, I thought. He thought at the end, actually, he said, Randy, that was a great show. We talked about like all the things that are going on around the world, the different factories, the different products, the different things. Some of those might have even been touched on in the 10 questions, or at least 9 of the 10 that Brian just brought up. So that card will be right here in case you'd like to go back and enjoy another 22 minutes or so of the nonsense that he and I put on. So is that it, Brian?
I think you nailed it.
Have to leave it there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in that case, it's been great talking to you.